Welcome to another Friday night hangout brought to you by the Craft Beer Nation. Almost lost my train of thought, but as a professional, I kept it moving. And tonight we are gonna be delving into the world of lagers, for better or for worse. That's what we're talking about. It's not as bad as it seems. You got a lot of options, right? So there was a little bit of talk earlier this week about how we had to be creative with this to try to make it interesting. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, well, man, there's a lot of lager options out there that are enjoyable, even for people who claim they don't like lagers. There's an option out there for you. So hopefully we'll get into some of that tonight. But before we do, want to remind you, hit us up at craftbeernation.beer. You can reach us on all of our social media platforms from that site. Follow us on Twitter at CBN Community. Check out some of our other. We have two other shows that are available as podcasts: Pints and Quarts and Mashing Out with the Beer Fairy. So check us out. Listen to our podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Watch some more videos. So that said, we are joined by a motley crew tonight. We got Ricky Potts, Lola Laracy, Jeffrey J. Davis. We got Freddie coming at us from Boston, as you can tell by his hat.
Boston.
We have Gilles Melleux, and we have Chris Phillips. How y'all doing tonight?
It's all good. It's all good. Let's do it.
I'm too sober.
Better to start drinking.
Yeah, let's get this party started.
And let me back up real quick. We have Chris, Mr. Liquid Bread Phillips.
YouTube star.
Why'd you have to back up on that, Nick? From the F-bomb. I'm sorry.
All right, so on my screen, we're starting with Ricky. So Ricky, what are you drinking?
So I am drinking an Upslope craft lager. I took it as basic as I could, and I was standing at the store the other day thinking about how I wanted to do this, and I thought, let's just go as basic as possible and get something that is simple, clean, fresh, easy to drink, low in alcohol, and that's what it is. It's just got a really, really nice aroma, and they use Sayas hops, and it's got just almost like a cracker bready flavor, and just it lingers a lot longer than I expected it to. But Upslope's fairly new to Arizona. They've been here for about a little over a year, and this is one of their best. They make 3 or 4 different beers that are pretty solid, but this is probably their best or their second best. Cheap too. It's like $1.99 a can, and just really sticking good. It's light, fresh, and it hit 100 degrees today, so it was 101. So it was hot when I came home, and
rubbing it in.
I got a question. So is there a style that's just called lager?
I don't know.
I know you got you got an American adjunct lager. You got you got a Pilsner, which is a lager. You got Doppelbock, which is a lager. Is there something just called lager? Because I see, and I know Upslope isn't the first brewery to do it. A few other breweries have craft lagers.
Yeah, it's divided in 3. It's light lager, amber lager, or dark lager, and then you have all the other styles of lager.
Okay. So
on the side of the can it says lager yeast too. So I wonder if that's I don't know much about yeast, but
it has to be lager. It has to be a lager. Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be cold yeast. Cold yeast. Yeah.
So when they just say craft lager, Ricky, can we see your beer real quick?
I guess it's no different than them saying it's a craft ale, right?
I mean, but but does anybody just say craft ale?
No.
Well, I guess not just craft ale. They're usually like it's a red ale or something like that.
Right. But that one just says craft lager. So I think it's reasonable maybe to assume that if they say craft lager, they meant craft light lager.
I would say or a clean lager. Yeah, I probably if you just say lager, it's probably. But see, the thing is, England only calls their beer lager, but it's more like an amber lager.
I thought Yingling was a Vienna lager. Maybe
it's a Vienna or Munich lager.
Okay.
But they don't disclaim
They
that.
don't call it that.
Right.
That's how it is.
That's what I mean.
Okay. So Ricky, would you buy that again? I mean, would that be a good go-to summer beer? Sounds
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's got the finish just lingers forever, and I mean, for a beer you wouldn't expect it to, It's just like, I mean, you go in and, and like Bud Light, like, I mean, and I was talking to you about this before we went on air, like Bud Light, if somebody is only a Bud Light or a Coors Light drinker and they want to get into craft beer, this would be like, hand them a can of this and say, this is your gateway into this style potentially, and it's a similar style to a Coors Light or a Bud Light, but yet it's craft. And
show the glass. If it's like a clear, like more, it's a style. See, there's a style called American Lager that most beer are. Yeah.
It's not as clear as you might think that it would be. It's kind of cloudy a little bit, but I mean, yeah.
Okay. What's the ABV?
I had bought 2, and the other one was 5.5. 4.8. So it's
okay.
You're talking about it being a summer beer, no question.
Straight sessionable right there.
Yeah.
You got to like pick them off the shelf and pick the high ABV ones. It varies from 4.8 to 5.5, Ricky. Or?
I got a long night ahead of me, so I needed to start low and work my way up.
But I like a beer where there's some variation in the ABV. You got to take your time picking them out there.
All right, Lola, what are you drinking tonight?
I have never had this. It's called Gilded Age, and it's from Two Henry's Brewery. It's in Plant City, Florida. I got it when I went to Orlando.
Okay.
So a lot of beers I've never heard or seen that I got in Orlando. I'm probably not much of a lager fan. I mean, I haven't had that many, but when I taste this, it's a little tepid. But that may not be the brew's fault. I mean, it may be following style. That may be just the way the style is. It's just a little bland, but it's not bad. I can tell it's decently made.
Is it does it say what type of lager it is on the can, or?
I think yeah, it does.
It's a Pilsner.
Let me go to Rate Beer. I have Rate Beer up.
It's a Pilsner.
Oh, Gil looked it up already.
Yeah, Czech
It's a Czech
Pilsner.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what did you say about the flavor that doesn't seem to necessarily be agreeing with your palate?
Well, it's kind of bland.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it may not be the brewery's fault. They're probably following style. It's kind of meh.
Yeah, I think if you don't like intentionally make it a point to try to get into lighter lagers, and if you usually just drink a lot of ales, a lot of IPAs, or just a lot of more flavorful beers, when you do drink a lager or whether it be a Pilsner or a light lager or whatever, it's automatically going to initially probably come off as bland to your taste buds.
Yeah, and it's not their fault. It's just I'm used to bigger beers.
Yeah.
But I think it's well made. Now, Rate Beer doesn't feel the same. Rate Beer gave it a 44. 79, yeah, bad.
That's a drain pour.
Wow.
79 to the style though, so I guess maybe they just don't like pilsners.
Man, if you're gonna drink based on Rate Beer, Beer Advocate, you might just not drink at all.
I mean, I know, but I'm saying a 44. That's pretty bad.
That is pretty bad, yeah. Some people really don't like it. But it's a 4.5%.
Well, it depends.
ABV.
There's how many people reviewed? There's only 5 people who reviewed. That's.
It's 2 pages worth, so
okay.
it's a good number, and they all give 3.1, 2.8, 2.7.
So it's a pretty bad beer then, basically.
That's what they.
Again, I'm gonna say it again. For this kind of style, it depends who drinks, because a lot of craft beer drinkers are ale snobs, and when they drink something that is not their usual thing, they just think, this is like straw-like taste and it's too light and it's, and just.
Ale snobs. That's new. I've never heard of ale snobs before.
I haven't either.
I mean, it's not like Gil. It's not like it got a 74. It got a 44, man.
44 although I've seen 9 before. There was a Spanish beer I drank that had a 9.
9.
Yeah, and it was horrible. It was a drain pour. Sorry, Spain, but it really was.
Sorry, Spain.
Sorry, Spain.
Tap water in Spain is at least a 5.
Exactly. No, I would probably be able to drink tap water, maybe. I couldn't drink this.
Exactly.
Funny.
All right, Jeffrey, what up?
So from that kind of light Helles lager, I'm sort of at the other end of the spectrum here. So I'm drinking Schneider Weisse Adler.
Swung for the fences.
Yeah, you know how I roll, man. This is, and I love this brewery so much. It's my favorite German brewery. I've been there many times.
And
all
that's
of
the
it.
best beer, in my
It's-
opinion.
Yeah, it's their most unique beer. I like Tap 5 best, but this is so this is a great beer. This is it's 12%. So this is basically their Tap 6, which is their Aventinus, Unser Aventinus, which is a Doppelbock. And they freeze it to crystallize it to dewater it a little bit, so it raises up the ABV, and you're left with all the malt and all the aromatics, but less water, basically. So sometimes I've had them where it's like almost black. This is, I would say it's a dark brown. It's very turbid because it is a 60% wheat malt beer, so it's always going to have yeast in it and a little bit of cloudiness. But when I poured this thing at the beginning of the show, it was a head like this, like 5 fingers, and after about 10 minutes it subsided. But you get huge like raisins, plums. It's super malty. You still have some sort of like typical Hefeweizen banana and clove, but it's really sort of more dominated by by the malt and these kind of dark raisin, and I would say like plum notes. But it's a great beer, and you can't drink too many of them. It's typically like what I would say a dessert beer. So this would be my cleanup beer, but I wanted to make sure I got it on the mic.
That beer is gonna put you on your knees in no time.
No, it's not. Don't worry, man. I'll be around. I'll be around for the duration. I got this.
Tell them what's the AB.
It's 12%. So for a lager, I'm not aware of any lagers that are higher ABV than this, but this is 12%, but totally drinkable. It's not boozy at all. So I agree with what Gil said. If you just sat down and you could session 2 or 3 of these and probably not realize what you just did to yourself, and then you fall off your stool and break your nose. But it's good beer, solid beer.
It drinks like a quad.
Yeah, it's not it's not as I don't know. It's it's pretty big mouthfeel, so it's a little bit heavy and chewy, especially for a lager. So it's not something you're just gonna pound, but it's drinkable.
And that particular style of lager was initially discovered. It was a mistake, right?
Folklore says it was a mistake. Yeah.
No, everybody kind of. I don't know if it's folklore, but everybody agrees that they had some barrels of Doppelbock Bock that got accidentally frozen in transit, and they poured off some of the liquid below, and they said, "Damn, this is pretty good. Das ist gut." Das ist die Eisbock. Yeah.
That's
Yes!
It was like we left this beer out. Bottle it anyway.
Yes.
Sell it anyway.
Man.
Well, what I mean, the folklore is like they say that one of the younger, monks, it was his job to collect the barrels, but he had a little too much and he forgot it outside.
You had one job.
Yeah, that was it. You had one job and you forgot.
Yeah,
and then he decided to drink, or they make him drink, and it was actually pretty good.
He could have accidentally invented vulcanized rubber or Eisbock, and he made the right choice. He chose Eisbock. So good job, little monk.
They made him drink it, and he was like, "This is terrible. I'll take it all I'll throw it away."
And that's one of the beers.
City Lager.
And that's one of the beers, among other beers, that people talk about lagers, and sometimes they forget all the kinds of lagers. I think there's more than 15 styles of lager, maybe more than that. And that's one amazing style of lager. Their beer is like you could drink pair to pair with a quad or any other thing.
Yeah, and that's kind of my point, Gil. Is we are more sort of ale snobs, as you said, in the U.S. craft beer scene. But saying lagers, that's like splitting fish and plants and animals. There's so many varieties of lagers. So and I think it's our job to help people understand that there is a lot of variety. Just because it's a lager doesn't mean it's piss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Freddie.
Like a bull.
Freddie, what you drinking on tonight, man?
I'm having a Jack's Abbey Harponious Union.
So good. That's a good one.
It's money, dude. Big tropical notes on that. It's kind of like the mouthfeel you get. It's like prickly a little bit at the beginning. You get that creaminess, real clean finish. It's solid, man. I mean, the thing's it's the aroma on this is just incredible.
And I was
The
just,
lager, like you guys are talking about how the lager people think like, this is like complete opposite spectrum to like a bland lager, or like these
Yeah.
regular lagers.
I
Don't
remember
they
having.
kind of specialize with lagers though, or not really?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they do
Yeah,
a lot.
Jack's having yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, all lagers.
I had that beer, and if I had like closed my eyes and tasted it, I could assume that it was an IPA. If I
Yeah.
remember correctly, like it's definitely hoppier than your normal lager.
Oh yeah, I think towards the end this beer really shines, like just in mouthfeel alone, like that. Like you get it's like real prickly at the beginning, then it's like this like real subtle creaminess, and boom, it's like just crisp and
Yeah.
dry. It's so good.
But their breweries like New Glarus. I mean, look, their lagers are just amazing. I mean, it's such an awesome beer.
I don't know about Spotted Cow. I will differ all day on that one, but
Yeah.
I haven't had too many of new. I think I had it was called like Fat Squirrel and Two Ladies, or Fat Lady and Two
Yep.
Squirrels.
no, that's right. One's a brown, I think, and one's
Okay.
I don't remember what fest.
Oh, Fat Squirrels are brown and Two Ladies is the lager, right?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Both are lagers.
Yeah, I think they do all their stuff as all lagers, and
Oh, okay.
but yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of people that get busted nut over their New Glarus. Some of their stuff is, if you like the sweet stuff, their sweet stuff is sweet for sure.
Yeah. Their Serendipity is like sugar high.
Yeah, I all their like strawberry rhubarb and all those other ones, those bombers they've got. It's like Capri Suns in a bottle. I mean, they're just like damn. It's like they're pretty sweet. Now, there's a lot of people like them. I'm not a huge fan, but the Spotted Cow is their keystone beer, and man, that thing it's like crack. It's like Oberon in Wisconsin. I swear. It's like, and I'm not. To me, it just tastes like a kind of a hefty Bud or something like that. It's just yeah.
Okay, well,
It's a cream ale though, which is weird because it doesn't really taste like a cream ale. It just tastes like a regular straight up lager. But
okay.
Their brewery is so beautiful. I mean, they did it looks a little, Austria or German kind of a village scene in the middle of Wisconsin.
Makes sense. That's all Wisconsin is all that German, type of brewery, type of, what do you call it, essence, Miller and all that other stuff that's up there. Yeah, old school.
Okay. Charlie Dunkley.
What's up, Randy?
What drinketh thou? What filleth thine cup?
I have a Wagner Valley Amber Lager. Whenever I look it up, it just says Dockside Lager, but I don't see Dockside anywhere on the bottle. But I don't know if they've redesigned it.
Okay.
It is apparently a Vienna Lager,
Mm-hmm.
and it's Amber. I guess is a proper name for it.
Well, I know.
It's actually not too-
I know how you feel about Sam Adams, which is a Vienna lager.
I know. So
Boston
now,
lager.
this one's not that bad. Now, Boston Lager, I mean, it's a quality beer. It's just I can't drink it. It's a drain pour for me personally, only because there's some ingredient in that beer that just doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
This one is drinkable. Now, I'm going to have to revisit this at another night because I actually had 2 6-point Bengalis shortly before the Hangout. So
Wow.
Yeah, sure.
fresh. So if drinking a 6-point Bengali is what enables me to drink Vienna lagers, I may have to try that before Sam Adams Boston Lager next time to see what it does. But this one's not bad. It's a bit on the sweet side for me.
It's a chaser.
Yeah.
But it's actually not too bad.
Charles
This
needs.
could be I would say a gateway intro beer for somebody only on the macro lager side. I'd give them this a try.
That's pretty dark for a Vienna lager, though. Actually.
Oh no, the lagers are kind of malty and dark. Like they have the caramelly kind of.
Well, how dark is like Sam Adams Boston Lager? Isn't that kind of on the darker side or no?
About like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty amber.
Charles, so you saying you need a hype man to drink Vienna lagers?
I think so. I'm gonna have to
That's
experiment.
unfair. That's unfair. If that's the only other Vienna lager he has ever tried other than
So
Sam
I've had a couple of others. What is it? Elliot Ness, I think. Is that a great Vienna lager? And that one I gave like 3 stars on Untapped. It was okay.
Not 3.25 stars.
Yeah. It's but the 2 lagers that are like really like it's Sam Adams Boston Lager and Great Lakes Dortmunder. Those 2 are I can't drink them. There's just whatever is in those 2 beers, and I recognize they're well brewed beers, but they just don't work for my palate. So now I'm gonna have to experiment. I'm gonna have to get one of each and have some Bengali lined up, and then taste the 2 before, and then have some Bengali, and then taste them again. I'm gonna do a little mini experiment on my own now.
All right.
But this one's not so bad.
That's something I want to bring up, and maybe I'm just going to throw it out there, and you guys call me a dumbass if you want, but I'm going to throw it out there for you guys to discuss. But there's a
Can we do it? Can we do it even if you're right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to call him a dumbass regardless.
It's not really a right or wrong thing, but just to give you a little bit of a scenario, there's a brewery that opened a few blocks from my house. It's a real small thing, and all they do is German lagers. And we went there and had a flight of their beers. They had a French toast beer, which was really actually kind of cool. But as we started drinking, other than that one, we started drinking the other ones. Me and my buddy. To me, and I'm looking at it right now because I had to actually look up Vienna Lager to see what the hell a Vienna Lager was because I'm not familiar with the lager side of the fence.
Because you're an ale snob.
Shut up!
I like ales too.
No, I like lagers, but I think what the problem is that the gradient between the lightest, least characteristic flavor, whatever you want to call it, lager, and the most extreme is really kind of vague. You know, the gradient is kind of all blended together. Where on ales, you can go from a really light session IPA or a pale ale or something like that, all the way up to like, hardcore bourbon barrel aged stout or something like imperial stout. I think it's just really
because they're easier, cheaper to experiment. I mean, making lagers is not that easy.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
and I understand that, but my point is, let's regardless of the difficulty of brewing a beer, the actual if you had no difficulty in brewing any lager, you were a freaking chief master brewer of lagers. If you got as creative as you could, even though you did that creativeness, the spectrum is still. Maybe my palate sucks, but I have a problem telling the difference between like a Kolsch and a
light lager.
Yeah, it's like I look at my buddy and I'm like, can you tell me the difference in these 2 beers? And he drinks them both. He's like, no.
Yeah, but
I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Okay, that's a Hefeweizen. I know that. That's an ale though.
But Chris, you wouldn't have a problem telling the difference between, say, a Kolsch and a Doppelbock, or a Kolsch and an Eisbock, or a Kolsch and a Baltic Porter.
Right. I mean, you're right. You're right there. But I don't know.
But I understand what you mean when you go on that wheat kind of Kolsch, Vienna, and those that the wheat taste is very, very similar. It is hard. It's very small. The difference between them anytime.
Yeah, and I think Chris, in that like center strike zone of German lager styles, a Helles lager, Vienna lager, Munich lager, Dortmunder export lager. You're right. It's a pretty tight strike zone. But you got to remember, this is Reinheitsgebot, Germany, where that's all they had was lagers. So they can probably tell a difference. But for us, it's pretty narrow.
That's a great point. That old damn German purity law. Yeah, that's. Yeah. So I'm looking right now at the Vienna lager, and at the bottom it bleeds into Oktoberfest, and they both are. I'm like looking at them like I can't tell the difference between those two.
Well, Martin Oktoberfest and Vienna lager are almost the same. The variation is almost none between.
One's 3A, one's 3B on the BJCP style guidelines for 2008. I don't know why I pulled up a 2008 page. But.
Yeah, that's every time I do a BJCP search, I get 2008.
They always that comes up.
But so I think. The lager spectrum, like you have like 3 sections on the spectrum. You got light lagers, and all the flavors are very similar. Then you got like the amber type lagers. All the flavors are really similar. Like Jeffrey was saying, where you got like Marzen, you got Vienna lager, like the Munich. All those are really similar. And then you got another side where you got like what? And I think I'd group these together like Doppelbocks. Baltic Porters, Ice Box.
Oh,
So it's like 3 different chunks, but within
Well,
each chunk there's a lot of similarities.
I would even put the Baltic Porter on a 4th category, like separated from everybody else, because you have more, the box, the double box, and that you have more malty, raisiny kind of taste, dark fruits. The Baltic, you go more into the roast kind of flavors,
Yeah. Well, the point is, so each like chunk, the flavor profiles are so similar. Like it's kind of hard to tell, Chris, to your point, hard to tell what you're drinking from the other one, right? They all taste the same. Right. I think that's a real good point. I mean, ales. I mean, there's a clear progression, I think, with ales.
But that's a little bit because for some reason people are afraid to experiment. Why not making a hoppy lager?
Well,
there's nothing to stop you.
Wait till you get to my beer, because I'll talk about my brewery in a second. So,
Victory does it with Prima Pils. Firestone does it with Pivo Pils. Jack's Abbey does it with Hoponius Union.
And Prima Pils is amazing as style goes. I mean, it's excellent. Example of American ingenuity when it comes to making beer.
Gil, what are you drinking?
Oh, against a view different from you guys, I love Vienna lagers, and I'm drinking a Vienna lager today. And this is the first time having this beer. I brought this from Texas with me. It's from Lakewood Brewing.
Oh, nice.
And the reason this one actually was given to me by Antonio.
Baranda?
Yeah, Antonio Baranda. Awesome guy. And it's 4.6% on the alcohol, but it's your typical Vienna lager. You get a lot of the caramel, the biscuit. There's not much. I mean, it's a very good example. They did a really good job, and the taste is on the same biscuit taste and a little bit of toffee, caramel, and stuff like that. I think it's excellent. I love Vienna lagers. I don't like sweet beers. I'm like Chris Phillips. When I had the strawberry rhubarb and I had the serendipity, I wish I had somebody with me, because I almost didn't make. It was awesome on the first glass, the first half of the bottle.
Yeah, it gets too cloying.
The second half was a struggle for me to get through. It was just like too much.
Yeah.
It was hard to drink that beer. It's not sweet. It just has that semi-sweetness to it, and I think it's just great. Nice ABV and on a summer day. I personally, like Yngling. Yngling is a beer that I drink with no problem.
Ding-a-ling.
And my friends all buy. It's funny because a lot of them buy Yngling to tease me because they know I like craft, and I haven't told them yet that Yngling is craft. So I let them
Don't tell us either, okay?
Yeah, I think Yngling is an excellent beer. I like it. So I like lagers.
Yeah, I like Yngling.
I might be Menards. I like lager beers. I like Box and I like Baltic Porters, and I like the straw-like kind of a German-style beer as well. It's not something that you can drink all the time because it gets
boring.
Boring, and it gets. but it's a style that I like to shuffle in all the time. It's not a style that I just disregard. That I say I'm not drinking this. I will always have some kind of lager on my.
It's a good change of pace.
Yeah, and that's actually one thing I thought of, this week. I mean, shopping for this thing, it's like, I bought 4 beers that I would never buy normally. You know? So I'm kind of glad of this rotation to forces us to get out in there. There are good beers. Don't have a preconception that all lagers are boring.
Yeah, and I think people have to remember that the idea that most people have about lager, this light American lager. This is only like a 20th century thing. Most lagers were a little heavier and darker until refrigeration come around, and I think was during I think Czech Pils was the first ones to be a little more light. But
all right. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You were about to say something else?
No, I just say I enjoy lagers on all kinds and styles. I like to experiment with them. The only problem is, more often than not, I don't like a lot of them because they're not well made. They're just, I don't know, narrow-minded sometimes, a lot of the breweries. But there's a lot of good ones out there. And you just said the Prima Pils here from Victory, near the house here, they're excellent.
Yeah.
I think that's why I enjoy Jack's Abbeys because they get they go crazy with these lagers. Man, they have all types of different variants.
They're almost like the Dogfish Head of the lager world. Like they'll try anything.
Yeah.
I think that's a sign of a really good brewery when they can take a style that's common and make it exceptional.
Or if you can take several different styles and brew them all well, like Founders.
Yeah. The other thing is you have to remember a lot of those styles are brewed with noble hops, which have very low alpha acids, so they don't they're different from big bold taste Amarillos and like that. They're more subdued. The noble hops are not as strong.
More aroma than anything.
More aroma, yeah. And the alpha acids are very low. They're very gentle, if that's the correct word, when it comes to hop world. Because we were big in hops, more flavor. People are trying to create new styles, new hybrids and stuff that are much more flavored than we would get with most noble hops.
All right, Chris, what are you drinking, my man?
All right, I'm drinking this brewery brews all lagers. They don't brew anything else, and I am drinking an Imperial Dark Lager aged in bourbon barrels.
Wow.
What's
the brewery?
Y'all thought I was lying.
He was not. No, he was straight up. I'm trying to let this thing warm. This is Wolverine Brewing Company out of Ann Arbor, Michigan, home of the Wolverines.
I love the name already.
Yep.
If you guys ever get up this way, this is another brewery in Michigan that just doesn't get out of the state at all. So unfortunately, no one can get it unless you come up here.
Hey, Chris, can you hold that up one more time?
Hold the bottle up too, Chris.
Bottle up is Massacre. I'm sorry, the actual name of the beer is Massacre. It is by Wolverine Brewing Company. You can see there.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm not sure I've ever heard of a bourbon barrel aged lager. So
Yes,
that's pretty wild.
Well, and they also make a double Imperial India lager. They also make a triple Imperial pale lager. They also make a barista coffee lager. You whatever you can do with an ale, they're doing lagers pretty much. I mean, obviously the mouthfeel of the beers are a little on the lighter side, but like this beer right here, if I served this to somebody and said, "Hey, check out this bourbon barrel aged ale I got," they would be, "Oh, it's kind of on the lighter side," and they would just kind of blow it off. And then I tell them it's the lager, and then they're blown away. I've had their IPL, and I'd be hard pressed to pick it out amongst a bunch of IPAs. It's that damn good.
Yeah, there's a few brewers doing IPLs. I wish that they were more available.
Yeah, they make a ton of beers. I mean, they're all lagers. They decided, a couple of guys got snowed in a guy weekend trip basically, and they talked about trying to make some gateway beers, trying to get people more into craft beer, and they decided to just go straight up lagers, and they have hit home runs. The first couple beers I've seen in beer stores aren't all that good because they're like a golden lager, and the actual, I think it's the actual base beer for this beer, it's just a dark lager. But when you go to their brewery and have some of their beers, I mean, they have a Gulu cubed Imperial India style pale lager, and that thing is so clean tasting because it's that lager, base, that lager lightness, but it's full of hops. It's still got enough of that hop and a little bit of that malt still to just make you freaking just pee a little bit. I mean, it's fucking good. So here's the thing. From a technical aspect, the only difference between ales and lagers is the yeast, right?
It's cold fermenting and top versus bottom fermenting.
Yeah.
The one has top fermenting yeast, one has bottom fermenting yeast. That does its job optimally at different temperatures, right? So
Right.
So the point I was trying to make is that, I mean, Chris, you said that these guys are doing all kind of crazy things with lagers, and that kind of dovetails with what Gil said, in that people kind of need to be open-minded with it, and if the only difference is the yeast, there really why aren't people doing the exact same? More people doing the exact same thing with lagers as you can do with ales.
Well, a little bit that you have to. Your system has to be constructed to do more lagers. If you're focused on lagers, because there's refrigeration, there's a bunch of other things, and most breweries don't have that structure, you know.
Well,
unless to make a large scale.
If you can brew a lager, period, then you can do anything with a lager. I mean, your system must be set up to some degree to lager beer if you're making a lager.
Right, but maybe a small batch here and there if that's not your, everything you do. Yeah, it's.
Well,
Can I just say that I just flashed to Willy Wonka, and like one of their songs where it's like, anything you can do or you can do something better. I don't know. In my head it was funny.
Okay, I guess you had to be
pure
there.
Imagination. It was the world
in
of
her
pure
head.
imagination. That song. So
And so you guys are talking about that. They do a brown, they do a pumpkin spice lager. Again, I talked about the coffee one. They do a Harvest Deluxe wet hop lager. I mean, they're basically doing everything that pale ale breweries are doing. They're just doing it on the lager side. So.
But I like that direction, though. I mean, you got guys that specialize only in sours, like Crooked Stave and Jester King. I mean, I'd like to see more breweries just really hitting lagers and just, like Jack's Abbey and this Wolverine, and just seeing how far they can take it.
But see, Randy said something in one of our shows about niche. Remember one time we were talking about finding a niche, and I think in a crowded, market right now. I mean, not that it's saturated, but it's pretty crowded. If you have to agree, you find one style and be good at that style is better than just do everything.
Doing everything.
Yeah.
How many IPAs from a new startup craft brewery do you need to try?
It's weird.
Go ahead, Chris.
Well, I was just gonna say it's weird because that German style brewery over here by my house, I'm not a big fan of the beers they brew just because they're all German style lagers, and they are packed every night. And Arcadia is just down the street. Arcadia's been around since the '90s. And Arcadia's still busy and stuff, but it's amazing this brewery just popped up in an old pizza, building, a pizza place, and they're just packing the house with these lagers. And I think it's because people that aren't into craft beer yet are able to go there and enjoy
more
beer.
accessible for them.
Yeah, they're starting to it's their gateway drug. They're putting the proverbial IV tubing around their arm and hitting them up with a heroin shot with the craft beer. So
I'm gonna tell you this: if I'm a brewery and I'm gonna experiment with small batch lagers, I am not gonna waste my time making a small batch light lager.
Right.
If I'm gonna make a small batch lager to experiment, I'm doing something stupid with it. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't. Some breweries seem to have a light lager just for the sake of having a lager.
Jack's Abbey's doing sour lagers.
Oh wow! Wow, that's different.
Yeah, they have their first.
Yeah, but Randy, any craft beer bar you ever go in, somebody comes in and they say, "Hey, can you make a recommendation?" And the bartender says, "What do you normally drink?" And they say Miller Lite or Ultra. I mean, so you need a Helles lager or a light lager on a tap just so the person can drink something.
Right. Yeah, but what he's saying is that if he's just brewing anything in general, if he's gonna take one shot at a lager out of his ale,
that's not gonna be it.
Right. It's going to be something. And that's, if you notice, a lot of breweries, what do they brew when they do that? They do an IPL.
Yeah.
Distiller, like a distiller from Founders.
But think about Goza, not Goza, Goze.
Sorry.
Goze and Berliner Weissers. I've seen more and more as I travel around the country.
Yeah.
Most of them suck.
Huh?
Most of them suck. I mean,
most of them suck, but not all of them.
Yeah.
I just had one yesterday. That I thought was excellent, and and now Goze is not as common. It's harder to find.
If I'm gonna have something on tap that's gonna cater toward the people who want a light lager, I'm not gonna waste the time and the time and the equipment it takes to make a lager. I'll brew a cream ale and tell them this is the closest thing I can get to satisfying your Miller taste or whatever, or your Coors taste or whatever. So.
And you're a condescending, brewery owner. I would never come back. I mean,
why?
Give me something I liked.
Because I didn't brew a light lager for you.
Yeah, but like. many breweries are surviving things on the beginning.
Yeah.
They need to get that crowd.
They need to get sales. They want the guy to order 3 beers,
sometimes it's a
not
business
just one.
decision. Yeah.
If you're not gonna come to my brewery because I don't have a light lager, kick rocks.
And again, it's your decision as a businessman, and that's all good.
How many breweries do you go to that have? I can go to 5 breweries around my house right now. None of them have a lager, and they're
Because all those people are up in Michigan drinking. That's why Chris's place is so crowded.
Well, I mean, I think, and Gil hit on this. I mean, you got to have the equipment to do it. If you're already brewing ales, you got to have something that's gonna,
it's a different
instead
setup.
of keep it at a 70-degree temperature, now you got to drop that shit down to what, 50 or whatever. So
Jeffrey said take out a loan to keep that once a month light lager drinker happy. Take out a loan to modify your system. I'm gonna talk about my beer.
All right.
Yeah, why don't you do that?
I'm gonna
Get off your
Bring it down
imaginary
for us.
high horse. Just talk about your beer.
I'm an ale snob. I'm playing along the same lines as Freddie. I'm drinking Jack's Abbey as well, thanks to Freddie. I'm drinking their Framing Hammer Baltic Porter. This beer really does drink like it's an imperial stout. I mean, when you drink this beer, nothing about it says lager. It's 10% ABV, 55 IBUs. First of all, how many lagers outside of an ice box is gonna have that type of ABV, right?
11.5, baby, right here.
Yeah. Okay.
11.5.
Well, those guys right there are brewing lagers, but their soul screams ales. But so this is the beer I'm drinking right now.
That's nice. Yeah, that's
that's a good beer.
Nice.
You can't see through this bad boy at all. As you can imagine, the head dissipated pretty quickly because it's such a high alcohol content. But
Actually,
on the nose, it smells like a stout. It drinks like a stout. It even has the mouthfeel of not the mouthfeel of a big stout, but it has that stout mouthfeel, which is something you almost never get in a lager. So, Jack's Abbey, they're, as Freddie said, they're doing some crazy things with lagers, and this Baltic Porter, man. If I was the
Baltic Porter is the answer to the stouts,
yeah.
Let me ask you something. Yes. So you made me think here. Being a home brewer, I mean, I brew a stout. Let's say I follow the exact recipe of a stout, but at the end I'm like, screw this. I'm going to put lager yeast in this thing.
That's exactly the point I was trying to make earlier, Chris.
Yeah, it should taste. I mean, yeah, it's going to taste a little bit different, but like this right here, this doesn't have that coffee note that a stout has, and this is a dark lager, but it's holding the bourbon pretty well, but it's not holding it as well as a stout would have. And I'm wondering why that doesn't have that coffee or that chocolate note. Why doesn't it happen? I mean, does anyone got any idea?
This is holding that
Is it?
coffee. Yeah, this is when you think imperial stout, the flavors you're used to with that beer.
Flavor.
I'm tasting those flavors in here for sure.
Now you guys have to remember that stout is a variation of porters, right? It's
That's
just
what I was wondering.
it's such a big style that became bigger than the porters themselves. But,
Nice.
yeah,
This is Jack's Abbey's Imperial Baltic Porter, and it's sitting at a sessionable 15% ABV.
Wow.
Get it.
my goodness.
Wow.
Knock it back, homie.
Well,
Knock it
the
back.
whole Baltic Porter thing's always confused me because a porter's an ale, but it's brewed with lager yeast. So you're like, what is it? Is it?
Traditionally, Baltic porters are lagers, but there are either hybrids or ale Baltics.
But all true Baltic porters are lager fermented, I believe,
yes.
right, Gil?
So
And
it's
the thing,
Baltic?
I haven't had that beer in a while at Framingham, but I had it a couple years ago, and a lot of Baltic porters are really kind of raisiny. I mean, you get this big kind of raisin flavor, and that one doesn't have it. It's more like a stout, just kind of roasty and almost coffee-like almost. So I remember that being a great beer.
That Lagerness monster is
Yeah.
driven
But
by
normally the Baltics, when they choose to call it Baltic rather than stout, is because it doesn't have that coffee or chocolate forward taste. It just has that roastness grain, and you miss a little bit of the chocolate. Then they tend to lean more and call it about a porter. Porter. Now, when you go to Baltic porter, if it's a true Baltic porter, it is a lager traditional.
Yep.
But as a lot of brewers says, we talked to Shane for 6 Point. He says screw style names. I call it whatever I want, as long as it's on the margin of error.
So here's what probably sets this beer apart from other Baltic porters that you may have had. They and this goes to mouthfeel. They use oats in this beer, and they use brown sugar in this beer.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So Chris, your point. This is what you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
If you can brew your normal imperial stout that you were gonna make, and then just say screw it. I'm using lager yeast.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather make an adjunct lager. Throw some oats in there. Yep.
I think in the end, it's all about good beer, right?
Yeah. How does it taste? Who cares what it's called?
Have fun.
If you brewed an adjunct lager, I would come to your house. I'd wait till you went to the bathroom. I'd take your keg outside and pour it out.
If it's a lager, if it's a lager with oats, that's an adjunct lager, bro.
Well, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking along like rice, like American adjunct lager.
Yeah,
My bad.
I know.
He'd adjunct you in the ass.
let me trip Randy now. Your love and beloved brewery Stone had a brewery called Stone Bombastic. I think that was the name, and that was a lager.
I never had it.
Truly didn't last. I don't think they ever made again.
It's so popular.
Well, on a side note,
Here was all the drink.
when you're talking about adjuncts, sorry I'm dropping in last minute, but
Who's this dude?
Yeah. Why is he breastfeeding?
there's a beer from the brewery that's modeled after the Mexican drink, like the horchata, and they do it tastes like cinnamon cream soda, and it's made with an insane amount of rice.
It is so good, though.
It's fantastic.
So they
Tastes
did
like
it right.
soda.
What's the name of it?
Horchata.
Or horchata.
I've seen that. That just got released recently, right?
Yeah.
Before, it used to be
the tequila beer?
no.
Oh, okay.
It used to be I think a Reserve Society member beer or a Provision Series beer or something, and they just now released it on their normal releases or whatever.
It's silly how good it is, though.
Doug, are you drinking a lager?
No, I'm drinking a nice Dogfish Head 120 IPA, and I've got a Bourbon County Stout in my French press with raspberries and cocoa nibs. So
You're dead to
no
us.
lager tonight.
Of course you do. It's Doug fucking Nolan. He knows how to roll.
All right, so let's.
Well, I thought about it because I had Baltic Porter and an Eisbach in the fridge, but I'm like, I'm really kind of feeling the 120, so what the hell?
You just didn't want to play ball.
Does anybody else do Icebox other than Aventina? Who else does Icebox?
Kunin Brewing Company out of Warren, Michigan.
Yeah,
They
a couple
do
people do it,
awesome.
Okay.
They do
The
a
one I
blueberry
have is-
Eisbach.
Yeah, when we did Eisbach Night, somebody had one that was not.
I
Somebody
don't
had
remember.
one that was not Aventina's.
The one I have is not Aventinas and it's not cumin.
Is it turmeric?
Oh my god.
All right. Anyway, lagers. Final thoughts. Ricky, go.
I am not going to visit the style often, but it's something that when it's hot outside or it's something that I just want to grab something quick that's easy to drink that I could drink 4 or 5 of. It's a good go-to summer beer, and I'm glad we were able to talk about it. I learned a lot tonight, like just listening to a lot of the things that we're going back and forth and different yeasts and stuff. I'm not gonna say I'm a fan, but it was a fun evening and I learned a ton.
Lola, go.
I think I would like the darker ones better.
Jeffrey, go.
I like playing around the fringes. I love the Icebox. I love the Rausch beers, Axel Kerala, which I'm drinking now. So I think there's a lot of variety, especially in the German, the kind of creators of lagering. So, give it a chance. It's a good category. Don't dismiss it.
Freddie, go.
I think it depends what kind of lager you're having, man. So it's whatever suits you. You can have an IPL or Doppelbock, which I'm gonna have next. You know, so it's depending.
That's another good one too.
Yeah, top six.
Yeah.
So
Charlie, go.
Well, I'm an ale snob too, I guess, but if you go to craftbeernation.org, you can read an article I wrote last year about In Search of a Great Lager, where I dove into the style and tried a whole bunch of different ones, and gained an appreciation. And Jack's Abbey really for me is the king of lagers right now. I mean, that's if you want to see what people are doing with lagers, find that brewery. But yeah, I'll go for an ale over a lager every time, but I do like exploring it. I do like these opportunities to really get back into the style and try new things.
It's like college where you experiment. You may not live that lifestyle forever, but for the moment you're like, oh, that's fine.
Too much information, Lola, as normal.
It was the moment. It was Friday night, and why not?
Officially, ale snob. Officially, ale snob has become a thing.
Yeah. It's a hashtag.
I didn't mean that. When I said that, I didn't mean to be a bad thing. Okay.
Stop it, Gil. It's a thing. It's a thing now. Ale snob. Gil.
What up? 2
nights in a row we had babies.
Breaking the internet.
Doug, we had Tristan on last night.
Gil.
All right. I don't like lagers when we talk about light lagers. I'm not a big fan of light lagers, but I'm a big fan of lagers because I love Schwartz beers, as Jeffrey
Gil is a fucking lager racist.
Racist, yeah. I like Schwartz beer. I like Box. I like Dunkel. I like Vienna lagers, and I mean, right here there's an amazing example of a great lager, right? Three Beans. I mean. If you haven't had Three Beans, I'm sorry, but it's it's just an amazing style, and I'm very happy for the advent of IPLs.
I didn't know that was a lager.
I didn't either.
See?
I thought it was just a regular porter.
That's
a Baltic porter.
It's listed on a bunch of websites as a Baltic porter, but I don't know.
Yeah, the guy who brewed told us it's a Baltic porter, so we'll go with that.
His mama named Clay. His mama named Clay.
What up? Clay. What up? Homie. What up?
Chris.
What up?
Final thoughts, Chris.
Final thoughts. Gil is coming up with another name. It's awesome. Ale. What is it? Ale.
Snob.
Ale snob. Don't be an ale snob.
Hashtag ale snob.
So don't glass shame when you're ale snobbish. Next. Wolverine, like I said, you can if you're gonna brew lagers, brew everything and be like Randy said, be adventurous and brew some shit. Or some good shit. Don't brew some
boring stuff.
Right. And I've learned tonight, even though when I tried not to cuss, I still cuss.
The more you know.
You without you.
The harder you try, the more you cuss.
Exactly.
So my final thoughts kind of go along with what Freddie said. It all depends on what style of lager that you want. I tend to venture toward the darker side of the lager house unless it's hot outside in the summer and like Ricky said, I can get my hands like on a Helles lager or maybe even a Pilsner or whatever. They all have their place. It just depends on what it is that you're looking for. So that said, next week is what, Gil?
Oh, you had to ask me, didn't you?
I just
wheat beer.
Wheat beers.
Yes.
Wheat beers. So I'm sure I'll have a Dunkelweizen to survive next week or something like that. So
You're on a roll, man. You're on a roll.
That's another great style, man.
So be sure to join us next week where, I think the wheat beer gambit is just as wide as lagers. I mean, you can go from Gozas to Berliner Weisses to Hefeweizens to Dunkelweizen to Randy Visons, whatever.
Hopton
Randy
Visons.
Bisons.
We actually, and we're doing box the week after, so it's gonna be a fun
Yeah.
3 weeks.
So be sure to join us next week when we talk about wheat beers. Thank you for joining us. Cheers.
Cheers up.
Cheers.